Okay guys, so now let's discuss about the different types of queues. In operating system, there are generally three types of queues are maintained. So as I have already written here, new queue, or we also call this queue as the job queue, ready queue, and you can say blocked queue. As we have already discussed, there are different types of states an operating system maintains. So generally there are 5 states as it is depicting in this diagram. Okay, so like new state, ready state, running, terminated, and waiting. There are 3 states like new state, ready state, and waiting state. On these 3 states, more than one processes can arrive at a time. So when there will be more than one processes arriving at a time, there will be a queue need to be maintained, right? So when the queue will be maintained, then the processes will be transiting from one state, or let's say new to ready, one by one, and that decision which process will transit first will be taken by a kernel module called as scheduler, right? So as the name suggests, new queue or job queue will be maintained on this new state when there will be multiple processes will be arriving. Then on ready queue, possibly there can be a number of processes. So there is a queue called ready queue maintained on this state, and on waiting or blocked queue also, because there can be a number of processes blocked at any given point in time, right? So in running, if there is a single CPU, only can be one process, so there is no queue here. And similarly, at terminated, there is no need of queue, right? So from one state to another, if there is a queue and only one process is getting selected, as I told you, there is a role of scheduler. So let's discuss the schedulers. What is a scheduler is? Scheduler is a component that manages the execution of processes and threads. Thread scheduling also we will later on discuss. Right now we are talking about process scheduling. It allocates resources such as CPU, time, and memory to the different processes and threads. Determines which one should be executed next. So that is the primary role of the scheduler. Responsible for ensuring all the processes and threads get a fair share of CPU and resources, and they can run efficiently. So that is the responsibility of the scheduler to ensure this thing. Then one of the key component of the operating system is the scheduler. If scheduler is not there, it will be difficult to take up the efficient decision, and the overall throughput of the system will be affected, right? So this is very important component or module of the operating system, or you can say kernel. But associated to the scheduler, there is another intelligent module also. When the scheduler will be called, there is another module called dispatcher that will also be called. So this is also a kernel module responsible for moving a process from the ready queue to the CPU execution state, right? So a process from ready queue to execution state, the dispatcher will takes the responsibility to switch a process, right? So if scheduler is deciding which process will move, let's say from ready to execution state, the dispatcher will do the rest of the things after the decision of the scheduler. Okay, so typically a part of the short-term scheduler, we consider it is a part or included thing inside the short-term scheduler, right? It is also known as the CPU scheduler. So dispatcher also known as CPU scheduler because it decide the allocation of the CPU. So ultimately it is scheduling the CPU. Okay. Now there are different types of schedulers. So the very first type of scheduler is short-term scheduler, which works on the ready queue. And this scheduler is also known as the CPU scheduler. Okay, or the dispatcher also. So what is the responsibility and roles of this particular short-term scheduler? It is responsible for selecting which process should be executed next by the CPU. It decide the next process need to be executed by the CPU, and it makes the decision on a very short time scale, typically in milliseconds. That's why it is considered as the short-term scheduler. It works on ready queue. So short-term scheduler works on ready queue, right? Then the next type of scheduler is medium-term scheduler. It is also known as swapper or the rollout roll-in scheduler. So it is also considered as swapper or rollout roll-in scheduler. The medium-term scheduler works on the waiting queue or blocked queue. So it is responsible for managing the memory allocation of process, moves processes in and out of memory as needed. It can bring the process in memory or it can make processes out of the memory, and decides which process should be swapped out of the memory to make room for a new process. So if it is necessary to swap out a process, this scheduler will decide, the medium term scheduler will decide it. And it is act as a time scale of like in seconds or minutes. That's why it is considered mid-term scheduler or medium-term scheduler. Then there is third-term scheduler which works on job queue or new queue. That is long-term scheduler. So this is also considered as job scheduler, responsible for deciding which process should be brought into the system for execution. That means which process will brought into the ready queue. This decides. It determines which process should be executed and when, and it acts on time scale in minutes or hours. That's why it is considered as long-term scheduler, right? So you can easily remember these three types of scheduler. So long-term scheduler works on job queue, short-term scheduler works on ready queue, and medium-term scheduler works on blocked queue or IO queue, right? So please do remember. Now let's discuss few of the very important times with respect of process. So the very first important time is arrival time. Now what is arrival time? Arrival time refers to the time at which a process arrives in ready queue. So the ready queue is maintained when, as and when the process arrives in ready queue, that time will be considered as arrival time. Then the next is burst time. The burst time is also known as the execution time. So the burst time represents the number of cycles required to execute the process. So that is the required burst time, right? It is also known as the execution time, as I already told you, or run time. Then the next time is completion time. It is a particular time when a process finishes its lifetime. That moment of time we consider as the completion time of the process, right? It is also referred as the finish time of the process. Then another very important time is turnaround time. The turnaround time, actually it is the total time when the process arrives in the ready queue and when the process is going to be ended, like the finish time or completion time. So the difference between the completion time and the arrival time is considered as the turnaround time. So if you consider the turnaround time we write like TAT. So if I write the formula for TAT, there can be possibly more than one formulas. So turnaround time can be the completion time of the process CT minus arrival time of the process AT, right? So completion time minus arrival time, or there is another formula for the turnaround time you can write execution time. So I'm saying you can say ET, in short, execution time plus WT is waiting time. So either you can say execution time plus waiting time or completion time minus arrival time, that is turnaround time. Now what is waiting time? The waiting time is, in an operating system, waiting time refers to the amount of the time the process spends waiting in ready queue. When the process waits in ready queue and waiting for the CPU control to be switched, that duration is considered as the waiting time. Okay. If your system is allowing the preemption, then there may be the multiple waiting time for a process. But in non-preemptive system, there can be a single waiting time. Only one time the process will wait. Once the CPU will be allocated, process will finish its lifetime, right? And then another important term is response time. So what is response time? Response time refers to the amount to the time it takes for a process to respond to a request. So let's say a process is requesting for the CPU. So process arrives, and after some time process will get the CPU control. So that difference will be considered as the response time, or you can say first waiting time, right? So I hope you can understand all these time associated to the processes in the operating system. From next session onward, we can start discussing the different algorithms, or you can say scheduling algorithms, right? So I'm closing this session. Thank you everyone for connecting.